Larry and his lawsuit-happy mother thought they were just bullying another underpaid public school teacher into submission. They had no idea they had just walked into a meticulously crafted psychological meat grinder designed to permanently obliterate his Ivy League future. It was a crisp Tuesday afternoon when they cornered me in the conference room, completely oblivious to the fact that the trap had already been set. Larry was slumped in a plastic chair, tapping his $400 sneakers. He had that signature smirk of the kid who had never been told no. Beside him, his mom was clutching her designer bag, casually dropping her lawyer's name like she was ordering a coffee. They were there to demand an A for a project Larry hadn't even looked at, and they expected me to fold. To them, I wasn't a teacher. I was just a minor inconvenience standing between her spoiled kid and an Ivy League free ride. In this zip code, parents threw their money around like a weapon to erase bad grades, and Larry's crew played the system perfectly. Larry and his 6 buddies operated like a virus in my classroom. They had spent the entire year orchestrating a lazy, parasitic racket, coasting through their final semester by systematically latching on to the quiet, hard-working kids. They forced them to do all the heavy lifting on group projects under the unspoken threat of social ruin. If a straight-A student ever dared to complain about carrying the dead weight, the parental cavalry would arrive. Affluent mothers and absentee fathers would storm the school, aggressively shifted the blame, accused the staff of making the coursework too stressful, and bullied my colleagues into submission. The other teachers were exhausted, beaten down by the constant threat of frivolous litigation, and they simply let these boys get away with it. Larry and his crew would literally buy kids lunch or bring them gifts the day before a project started, buying their way into the smart groups just to leech off the resulting grades. It made my blood boil, watching them high-five each other in the hallways, laughing at the students who were currently sweating blood to keep Larry's GPA afloat. They thought I was just another exhausted public school pushover. They didn't realize my entire syllabus was a legally bulletproof trap, and I was already tracking every second Larry spent on the class portal. Every group contract and grading rubric I handed out wasn't just paperwork. It was a snare built for moments exactly like this. I made every group sign digital contracts detailing exactly who did what, creating a digital, time-stamped paper trail of Larry's absolute incompetence. I used online grading portals that tracked every single second a student looked at an assignment. When Larry's mother claimed he worked all night, I had the data proving he logged in for exactly 4 seconds at 2 in the morning. I wasn't just grading them, I was quietly gathering ammunition. So I sat in that conference room, letting Larry's mother threaten my job, my reputation, and my livelihood. I let her exhaust herself, absorbing the venom. I just sat there, nodding politely. I let Larry keep his smirk, because they thought they were playing checkers, and I was already 3 moves deep into checkmate. They thought they were gaming the system, outsmarting a lowly public servant. In reality, I was just handing them the shovel and waiting for them to hit rock bottom. The mother glared across the faux wood laminate of the conference table. She didn't just want a passing grade, she wanted an apology. She leaned in, smelling like expensive perfume and cheap threats. I play golf with the superintendent. Fix the grade by 3 p.m. or you're back to subbing in the inner city. Larry didn't even bother looking up from his iPhone. He just slouched deeper into his chair, a bored scoff escaping his lips as he aggressively scrolled through Snapchat. To him, my classroom wasn't an educational environment. It was a minor customer service dispute, and his mother was speaking to the manager.
I didn't flinch. I didn't defend myself. I just sat in dead silence, staring him down. The quiet stretched out until her furious momentum finally started to crack under the weight of my absolute indifference. I looked at my watch, cheap, scuffed Casio, and let another agonizing 5 seconds pass before I finally spoke. Ah, Larry sighed, checking his phone. Can we just wrap this up? Put the A in the portal. We literally have somewhere to be. He flashed that insufferable, bright white smile, entirely convinced that his charm and his father's checkbook were the universal skeleton keys to the world. His mother nodded in agreement, practically glowing with pride at her son's utter lack of respect. They truly believed they had backed me into a corner. They thought my silence was the white flag of surrender. You know what? I said, letting a thoroughly defeated sigh escape my lips. You're right. The current workload is unnecessary. I watched the mother's eyes light up with predatory triumph. I told them I would drop the current failing project entirely. A clean slate. But, I explained smoothly, school policy dictated that the points had to go somewhere. I would simply roll that weight into the final project, making it worth a massive 20% of their overall grade. I promised them I'd introduce it at the very start of class this coming Friday, giving Larry a head start to pick the best group possible. Larry actually chuckled, giving me a mock two-fingered salute, completely unaware that he had just signed his own academic death warrant. You see, I knew something they didn't think I knew. This coming Friday was the unsanctioned, heavily guarded secret known as Senior Ditch Day. Larry and his crew were already planning to be halfway to the beach by first bell. By dropping the current project, I hadn't given him a lifeline. I just loaded 20% of his graduation requirement into a single, high-stakes assignment that would be assigned the exact moment he voluntarily vanished from my classroom. As they strutted out of the conference room, practically high-fiving over their perceived victory, I pulled my laptop closer. The trap was locked. Friday morning, while Larry and his 6 deadweight friends were busy calling the attendance office to pretend to be their own parents, I would lock in the project groups. The hardworking kids, the hosts they usually leeched off of, instantly formed their own 4-person squads, filling every available slot. By the time Larry and his crew dragged themselves into class on Monday, they would find themselves permanently quarantined from the smart kids, trapped in a sinking lifeboat with each other. I opened my email client, drafted the syllabus update to the entire class, and hit send. The dominoes were officially in motion. When the bell rang on Monday morning, Larry and his crew strolled in, still riding their weekend high and expecting the VIP treatment. They headed straight for the tables where the high achievers sat, ready to claim their unearned seats. Instead, they found a wall of turned backs. Every single group was already locked at 4 members, diligently working on the massive 20% project I'd rolled out exactly when I promised I would. Larry's smug, half-lit expression vanished. He stopped dead in his tracks. You can literally see the panic hit him as he realized he'd just been locked out of his own free ride. He marched up to my desk, demanding I force one of the groups to take him in. I didn't raise my voice. I just pulled up the time-stamped email I had sent on Friday, explicitly warning everyone to establish their groups before the weekend.
I offered him a deal. He could join a group of 5, but they would have to do the entire project twice to compensate. The room went dead silent. The hard-working kids literally shooed him away. The color completely drained from Larry's face, leaving him a pasty, terrified white. He wasn't looking at a pushover anymore. He finally realized who he was messing with. He and his crew were stranded on their own island, staring blankly at a rubric they couldn't even comprehend.
3 weeks later, the results were an academic bloodbath. Their final project was an absolute train wreck, earning a staggering 10%. It dragged Larry's grade down to an abysmal, unrecoverable F. When his mother stormed back into the school, threatening fire and brimstone, she was met not just by me, but by the principal. I didn't even have to speak. I just slid the digital phone logs across the table. Irrefutable proof that Larry and his friends had impersonated their parents to excuse their absence on ditch day. It was a highly suspendable offense. The threat of her frivolous lawsuit evaporated the second she realized her son's own hubris had handed the administration the exact leverage needed to expel him. She didn't say another word. She just grabbed her bag and walked out in dead silence. The dominoes fell with devastating precision. Larry's prestigious university, upon receiving his decimated final transcripts, instantly revoked his admission. When his wealthy parents saw his revoked college admission, they finally hit their breaking point. The free ride was over. They refused to foot the bill for his endless string of failures and immediately kicked him out of their downsized condo. The kid who thought he was untouchable, who believed his father's checkbook could overwrite reality, was suddenly left with nothing but a ruined future and a minimum wage reality check. He spent years stepping on his classmates, completely unaware he was just setting his own trap. They thought their money made them invincible, but you don't always have to fight a bully. Sometimes you just hand them a shovel and let them dig. Because in the end, the undercover scales of justice always balance out.